It's the first album with Rufus playing drums on it. So it's more drumsy, more beats orientated.
Kind of blonder, younger, more beautiful.
Do you think it sounds more modern? I think it does, but not not to the not at the expense of Darknessisms. I think because we worked with Adrian Bushby, who produced it, and I think he's a modern rock bloke.
We wanted to work with someone rather than like a classic rock producer. We wanted to work with someone young, up and coming, like one of the next super producers, and kind of whittled it down to a few people and went to meet Adrian Bushby, who's worked with Foo Fighters, or everyone from Foo Fighters through to My Bloody Valentine back in the day. And he just seemed to have that sort of that spark, that energy, and also the lack of respect for classic rock that we were looking for, because we kind of want to sort of push the boundaries and have things kind of like this album. When the guitars come in, they take your head off, and like when there's a drum fill, it's the only thing you can hear, and it's kind of wanted someone aggressive enough to sort of pull that off without any kind of homaging going on. Is that a word?
Homaging. Sick of it. Sick of homaging. Yeah. To be honest, I did my own Brexit a few years ago because I could see Brexit coming. No, it's kidding. What am I talking about? I just left. I live somewhere else. And so I was watching it from an outsider's point of view, and I felt like it wouldn't be fair for me to remark on it.
I wonder how it will affect music, really, because it tends to, doesn't it? Maybe our role is more important than it has ever been.
I call it the rise of the arseclowns, because I feel like it's just last year was just a moment where every ridiculous decision which enables like affluent people to shoot themselves in the foot happened. Maybe it needed to, I do think that, like you were talking about how, there seemed to be a bubble in London and then there was poverty outside it, and I think that's the main reason why something like that has happened. Everything's London-centric and everybody else is completely ignored.
The history of human race has always been that things have to get worse to get better, and within that period of things getting worse and worse, and then things will, kind of pull back. And good, enlightened
Does
people
that mean that the pound will be more valuable?
Sorry?
Does that mean that the pound will be more valuable once we've hit rock bottom? Or will it become like you have to have a wheelbarrow to go and buy a loaf of bread?
Well, I think rock is kind of rock has always had a certain amount of fun and humour attached to it. It's kind of, I think, in a way, that's never changed, has it? New metal. We're a rock band. There aren't many rock bands around these days. We're part of a dying breed, I think. So, so what you're actually asking is there more of a need for rock? And I think, yeah, there always is. It's almost like too much of a risk to not take yourself seriously these days. It's like you kind of, you have to be. Everything has to be boxed off, and in a way, it's sort of it's too much of a risk. Yeah, but it is harder for bands these days. There's less money around for bands to start up, and things like tour support and smaller labels helping to fund bands sort of develop.
Especially after Brexit.
That's all out the window. So you can see why bands are sometimes maybe a bit worried about whether is this too much or
Yeah, it's really hard to make a living out of music. That's the problem. You used to be able to rely on like 9 or 10 different income streams. And now you have to be like a real innovator to be able to monetize your existence.
Actually, maybe we're being too nice because we didn't give a fuck about that in the first place, did we? The first album was written and recorded, but it wasn't like...
Here's the truth. We made an album and it was like, we like it, and if anyone else does...
it wasn't like, how are we going to eke out an existence doing this? It was like, well, we didn't really exist, did we? It was just like, back of a van and off we go.
It's the same for painters, isn't it? In the art world, it's tough for painters and tough for rockers, we both have to whore ourselves. But there are creative ways to whore yourself. Listening to George Harrison, All Things Must Pass, and getting back into Marvin Gaye. I got really into him about 10 years ago. Here, My Dear. Just the feel and the energy and the... I think in these times it restores your faith in just what the man is capable of, you know.
I did actually go back to Appetite.
Yeah.
The first Guns N' Roses album, Big Appetite. I love it. It's really powerful.
That's awesome.
It's one of those records where you can really hear what the two guitar players are up to, you know, because they're properly separated, like an AC/DC album, which I never realised before. You can really tell, you know, one of the reasons why Slash really pops out is because of what the other guy's up to as well. It's magical. I love listening to things and knowing who's done what.
Yeah.
Everything in its place. Slash over there, other bloke over there. Axel down the middle. Yeah, I think that the experience didn't disappoint at all. It was exactly what we were hoping for. We didn't get to hang out with them very much because of a few things that were said. Presumably, I don't know. People react to things in a really strange way sometimes, you know. So anyway, we didn't hang out, but there was we watched the whole show in Zurich, and it's just brilliant to hear all those songs.
Yeah.
And then loads of other songs as well. It's a really long set with lots of covers and more guitar solos than I've ever heard probably in any gig. And about, I would say, a cowboy hat every song and a half. Different cowboy hat every song and a half. Totally inspiration. And then but then beyond that, when you look down, there was even a different T-shirt here and there. Like more costume changes. Like I think what happened was I began to realise that when these long solos are going and you're just watching the fingers and you're mesmerised, it's a distraction technique, and Axel's running off there, putting a different hat on, and then he comes back and he's also got a different T-shirt as well. So God knows how many people are working behind the scenes to keep that thing ticking over. It's really impressive. One of them was a T-shirt and it had like a lady's legs splayed invitingly, but in the middle where you'd expect to see a lady part, there was a cat. An actual cat. It was brilliant.